in all this, and it's something I've been meaning to make like a full-fledged video on this for a while now, is that Tekken 7 is going to be coming out in less than a month. I am one of the biggest Tekken fanboys there is. It's my favorite 3D fighting game of all time. It's one of those. I grew up playing Tekken. The first Tekken game I ever played was Tekken 2. I went back to play Tekken 1, but Tekken 2 is my favorite. Not my favorite, but it's the one that I love the most, right? Then you have Tekken 3, which was awesome, and in my opinion, the one of the best fighting games ever made. Period. Because you can go back and play that game today and not feel and it don't feel old. It don't feel aged. At least in my opinion, it doesn't have none of the mechanics of 6, 5, 6, or 7, but still the game is still fast paced. The game is still fun as fuck to play, even to this day. Obviously I played 4, which I think is still one of the most underrated. It is the most underrated Tekken game they've ever made. It's also the one that's the most different, especially when you look at 5, 6, and 7, and then you go back and play 4. It's definitely the most unique Tekken game out there. Obviously, 5, in my opinion, is the best Tekken game that they've ever made. To me, I think they got everything perfect with the graphics, the gameplay. It's the best Tekken game they ever made. Obviously, you have Dark Resurrection, which I think is further improved on that. And in my opinion, the best single Tekken game ever made. But since it is based off of 5, you know, you gotta get what I'm saying. And then Tekken 6 was obviously a great fighting game, but it was a little bit of a letdown because to me, I feel like it was just 5 with more characters. And the balance system, I didn't really necessarily like the balance system that they had in the game, where if you hit them while they're on the ground, they'll bound up and you can hit them with extra combos. I didn't really like the addition of the balance system, but it is what it is. Tekken Tag, which was the last Tekken game I owned, actually was the last. It was one of the last few PS3 games that I played. I love Tekken Tag. 1 and 2. I forgot about the first Tekken Tag. Great game, obviously. Tekken Tag 2, obviously great game. Still had the balance system, but the tag team aspect of it made the game fucking awesome to me. And now you have Tekken 7. Now, like I said, I'm incredibly excited for Tekken 7. I hope it comes out. I hope it's awesome. I'm buying it day one. Do I have it pre-ordered yet? I don't think so. It doesn't matter. I'm buying it day one, regardless. Buying it day one. But I am worried about some of the mechanics in the game. Right? Like there are certain mechanics and there's certain things about the game that I do fear. Now, first things first. They technically took out the balance system. Is going to be, I believe the combo system is going to be more traditional, which is great. Like I like that. Like it's gonna be more traditional. I forgot what they called it, but it's gonna be more traditional. It's not gonna be like the balance system like they had in the last few games. But there's a couple of mechanics that I'm not feeling. One, and this was the one that has got me the most annoyed, is the rage art system, which is basically the special move system, where if your health is down to a certain point, and before, like, you just rage, right? Like where your attacks become stronger in order to help you get back into the fight. Now it's still the same, but instead you can do this super move that will. It's kind of like Street Fighter, right? Where you do your special, everything freezes for a second as you do the move, and then boom, you do your special. I'm okay with that with other fighting games. I'm okay with that with Street Fighter to an extent. I'm okay with that with King of Fighters. Any of the SNK fighting games, King of Fighters in general. I'm okay with that. In a 3D fighting game is not. I just can't. I personally don't like it. And they had this in the last Soul Calibur game also, where they had the special move thing. And to be honest with you, I didn't like that in that game either. Because the thing with Tekken that I've always liked was the fluidity and the pacing of the matches. You know what I mean? Like everything is going at you. Everything is feels like is on pace. Everything's fast paced. And to me, what the difference between that and a Street Fighter game is that you're dealing with a 2D plane in a Street Fighter game. You know what I mean? Like in SNK, for the most part, you're dealing with a 2D plane, right? With Tekken, it's 3D. It's 3D planes. You're moving around. You're moving side to side, and the game, especially with the pros, is based off of like pure movement and trying to trick your opponent into making a mistake. And me personally, having this super rage arts thing, to me kind of interrupts that, and I prefer a more standard type of fighting game from Tekken. You know what I mean? Like I don't need Tekken to become Street Fighter. I have Street Fighter for that. You know what I mean? Like I don't need it to be that. And there's other mechanics too where I don't know what it's called, but where you can absorb attacks and absorb strikes from your opponent and then come back with an attack of your own. It's kind of like it. I don't know what it's called, but you see it. You see it when you look at some of the replay stuff. And to me, like I don't know, it's something that I'm not into either. You know what I mean? I prefer it the old school where old school way when you have certain characters that can do like basic counter grabs and stuff like that and counter moves. And I believe you can still do that, but they have this thing in there where you can absorb attacks and then come back and hit them off of it. To me, I don't know. It's just something I'm just not into. You know what I mean? It's not something I like. Um, but my main problem with Tekken 7 has nothing to do with really the mechanics. It has to do with the characters, the new characters. The game's gonna have like a shit ton of characters. It's basically, I believe the count is like above 50. But the new characters that they have in the game are lame as shit. This is completely lame. Like, and to me, I look at their move list. I'm looking at their move set, and they all have like their move sets are pretty identical to the current character they have in the game currently. Like, let me look at some of these names. Because I need to remember them. Because I just look at some of the moves. There's this girl in the game, um, who has. I mean, she's pretty much Law. Like that's all she is. Like all she's doing is like she does the kicking stuff, and obviously Akuma is gonna be in the game. That I guess that's cool. Like I'm cool with that. All right, let me go to Tekken Wiki. You have Kazumi Mishima in the game, and she fights with a tiger. To be honest with you, I think that's lame. You know what I mean? Like she fights with a tiger. I think that's lame. Um, who else is there? You have Lucky. Okay, I'm gonna start this in order. I'm gonna start this in. I'm gonna start this in order. You have Claudio Serafino. His style is exorcism sorcery. You know what I mean? So he has like projectile moves, right? Yeah, I look at his move list and I look at him playing and I'm like, I'm not impressed. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not impressed. Like to me, I prefer I prefer like actual fighting styles. Like and obviously the game doesn't do traditional fighting styles the way that Virtua Fighter does. Like Virtua Fighter fighting style, those fighting styles are like legit to the core, the same fighting styles you'll see in real life. Now Tekken wasn't always like that. Like you have, the Mishima style is made up, obviously, um, but they have other ones that were more common, like judo. Like Paul was like into judo, which technically he doesn't really do that much. Obviously, martial law has Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee style. You had the drunken style and stuff like that Lee adopted at with Tekken 3. But But to me, like, I mean, some of these new characters are like garbage, man. Like, I just think they're garbage. Now the next character, Katrina Alves. Like, obviously, Katrina Alves, she's the new girl. She obviously they made her into basically beautiful sex symbol type character, obviously. And her fighting style is savant, which is actually a realistic fighting style. But I look at her style, and she's just doing a bunch of kicks. And to me, like you already have Law, you already have Hoang. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's just I mean, to me, it just seems like this common. You know what I mean? This is common. Let me look at Savant. Like Savant, obviously, it's a kicking style, so I understand that to an extent, but I just wish that it was more distinct. You know what I mean? I just wish it was more distinct. It's actually a style that is based off of France. So and Katrina is Brazilian. So I mean, okay, I'm mildly interested in that, but the gameplay style just doesn't do it for me. Plus, you have Lucky Chloe, which is lame. It's fucking lame. Now I'm not gonna go all the way and tell in badmouth Haruta that that was a controversy earlier in Tekken's development where people were bitching about Lucky Chloe. But again, the character's lame. Like I'm not gonna lie, the character's lame. But I'll use her. You know what I mean? But I think the character's lame. And then you have Shahid, who's um who's Saudi Arabian, and he's obviously the character is cool. Like the character, like the fact they're doing Saudi Arabian characters is cool. But at the same time, like I'm not seeing anything that differentiates him from a lot of the other Tekken characters. I'm not seeing that. You know what I mean? And to me, I think it's the weakest lineup of new characters that they've ever had. Because these characters they don't pop off at the screen. You know what I mean? Look at Tekken 2, right? The two new characters that they added were Lei and Jun, right? Oh, two completely different fighting styles and two completely different characters. And I get it. I mean, it's the first character had the first game had 8 selectable characters. At least I think it's 8, and you had like all the sub bosses and stuff like that. So I can understand that. Like when you add Tekken 3, they added Jin, they added Eddie, they added Huang, they added Xiaoyu, Link Xiaoyu, right? To 4 completely different characters, cool characters, whatnot. 4, they added um they added Christy, which is obviously a mimic of Eddie, but they also added Steve Fox, who was a boxer, and they added this the giant Marta, who had a style. I think the typical style was Valley Tito, but obviously he had some wrestling moves in there as well. So you had two completely different styles or whatnot. Then you go into Tekken 5. They added Lei Fei, which is actually one of my favorite characters. Who else did they add? Asuka, yeah, Asuka, who is obviously a carbon of it's pretty much a carbon copy of June. And who else did they add? Who else did they add? Oh, Raven, who's a jujitsu character, which is obviously in the same vein as a Yoshimitsu, but he had a different set of moves list too. He played very different than Yoshimitsu and played very different from any other character in the game. And then with Tekken 6, you had Lars. Um, who else did you have? Oh yeah, I forgot. In Tekken 3, they also added Brian Fury, which I think he was an unlockable character, and obviously he played differently. But then you go to Tekken 6, they added Lars, who I actually don't like using, to be honest with you. But again, he's a unique character. They had Elise, who obviously is a robot, so it's very unique. Who else did they add? They added somebody else. I'm trying to think. Well, obviously, for those of you who didn't play Dark Resurrection, Dragunov and Lily were in those games, were in those games, and even they fight differently. They have very different, unique fighting styles. Also, you know what I mean? But okay, they added Lars, they added Elise. Who else did they add? Oh shit. Fuck, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But regardless, they added two new characters that play very differently. With this, I mean, I don't see the difference in the characters. Like I look at Katrina, I look at her gameplay video. I could have sworn she had a combo that was similar to Law's. And like I said, like I discovered, her fighting style is similar. She has a kickboxing style, which I understand. But to me, I just look at her and it's like carbon copy. And the same thing with Shahid. So hopefully I'm wrong with that. Like hopefully these characters are cool, compelling, engaging characters, but they don't look at it that way. And to me, the characters has always been what set apart from Dead or Alive or Virtua Fighter. Like Virtua Fighter to me is the best pure 3D fighting game out there because it's it's not as crazy as Dead or Alive or Tekken. It's more more structured, and it definitely has the best fundamentals of all those 3D fighting games. But their characters are bland as shit. Like let's be real, their characters are bland as shit. The story surrounding it is bland as shit. Like there really is no story. It's just a fight. It's just a basic fighting game, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it's bland. Their characters are bland, and Dead or Alive is pretty much just about the females. Like the male characters in that game are lame. Like that's it. Like the male characters in that game are irrelevant. You know what I mean? And Dead or Alive is pretty much about boobs. And I did the story mode for Dead or Alive 5, and it's lame too. The story mode in that game is lame as shit. You know what I mean? Like, and I know some people are like, oh, well, who cares? This fighting game, whatever. Listen, Mortal Kombat set the bar, set the standard for story. And in my opinion, I actually think that Street Fighter, the way they did it in Street Fighter 5, as far as gameplay wise, is better. Even though the story in Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, is better, the way that they structured it in Street Fighter is a lot better than they did in Mortal Kombat. And even with that said, the Street Fighter story mode is really, really good, really good. And you look at what they're doing with Tekken, they ain't playing with the story mode, man. They're going at it, man. They're going at it, and I'm happy that they're doing it because to me, in order for a fighting game nowadays to really be viable, is to have something outside of the core fighting game mechanic. Because fighting games aren't what they used to be. Because back in the day, fighting games were the thing back in the day. Obviously, during the early years with the arcades and stuff like that, when you had Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, obviously they were at their peak. But even with a few years ago, anyone can just drop a fighting game, and they'll drop a fighting game. You always had fighting game coming out of the blue, especially during the PS1 days. I mean, you had Street Fighter, the Street Fighter games, you had Tekken, you had Dead or Alive, you had Virtua Fighter, but you'll have like a Bloody War come out of nowhere. You'll have a Battle Arena Toshinden. You'll have a Bushido Blade, right? And and fighting games don't drop like that no more. You know what I mean? Like obviously you have you obviously the genre has a bit of a renaissance with Guilty Gear coming back this generation. You have Blaz Blue, and you have a couple of niche Japanese fighting games and stuff like that. You obviously, I know people like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. So you'll see a bit of a renaissance, but you can't. It's very hard to start a new franchise with a basic fighting game without with new characters, without characters that we don't recognize. You know what I mean? Like with Injustice, obviously you have the superhero. The superhero aspect of it is the draw of that game. It's not necessarily the fighting. Like the fighting mechanics are really good, but the ultimate draw of that game is the superheroes, right? A company like Capcom or at least a lower tier company like that can't just come out and release a fighting game and be like, oh, there you go, here's your fighting game. You know what I mean? You can't do that. They can't do it like that no more, especially a 3D fighting one. They can probably escape it like a 2D one, like they were able to do with Skullgirls. But even then, with Skullgirls, that game's been through a couple of developers. It's been tossed around by a couple developers. You know what I mean? So, but they can't just release a 3D fighting game with characters you don't recognize and you're in they're set. You can't do that anymore. It's about like this gaming industry is about making money. So like I mean the only way I think they can do that is with a hook, and to me having a story mode, especially one that's like that intense, like the way that they've marketed Tekken 7 to be, that's the hook. And I'm glad they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like the tournament fighters may not care about that, and that's fine. But to me, someone like me who's not necessarily a tournament fighter, someone who just likes the fighting game because I like the character, like I like the opportunity of going one on one with somebody and scrapping, whether you're having fun or you're doing it competitively or just doing it to have fun. Is that really, to me, that's really the last genre where you can go over to a friend's house and just have fun with your friends without being like, oh, I'll meet you online and all that other stuff like you can do with all the other games, right? Like fighting game is still that little piece where being one side by side, having your friends behind you, all that stuff, like that stuff, you know, with a fighting game, that's still the best way to play. You know what I mean? Obviously with online, most online games net coding are fine for the most part. I know Tekken Tag 2 online netcode was good. It was good. It was really good. But still, I would prefer to play it with friends. I prefer to play it with just friends. You know what I mean? Not with random, online people, unless I know them. But but yeah. So this is summarized now, and I'll be done after this. Just to summarize, um, I like Tekken. I want Tekken 7 to be good. Listen, I'm buying it regardless. I'm going to say it's great regardless. But I do have a couple fears, and the game is hopefully the game is great because I think definitely I need a Tekken game in my life. Um, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Actually, the one other game I actually wanted to discuss is Gran Turismo Sport, but I don't have the beta yet. So what I want to do, I actually want to try out the beta before I even talk about it. So so yeah, so I'll talk about that another time. But anyways, this is Movie 186. Thank you guys for listening. Share this if you want. Anyways, this is Movie 186. I am out. Peace. In all this.